Okay, in this video, we are continuing the series on Don't Eat the Yellow Snow. We've already, in the first video, created a screen with all the boilerplate. Then we talked about the makefile. We drew the background, and we made a player that we can move around. In this video, we are going to make the module for the flakes. So if you're just starting out with this one, you need to grab the code from Programming Rainbow on GitHub, Yellow Snow C SDL2. And what you can do is you can copy the code from video 4, that's the last video we did, copy that into the source directory, just delete the source directory and rename it. And that's what we'll be starting today. So the first thing I want to do is I believe in the video did this correctly, but somehow it's got mixed up in the GitHub. But I had a couple spelling errors. Let me double check. So in initialize, in the video I did spell it correctly, but for some reason I don't know how I did it, or maybe I didn't do it in the video correctly, but that should be an A there, and it's going to be a couple places. Initialize H, and then where it's called in game. I'm just fixing little spelling errors. It's a bit annoying. Game C, where it's being called. Okay, and I've already fixed these on the, if you're coming from GitHub right now, these are already fixed in video 1, 2, 3, 4. So that fixes that. I also am going to set a couple of the errors. You know, I'm just going to capitalize a couple of the error. Let me save this real quick. So I believe in, yeah, an initialize C. We're creating a window. I'm just going to capitalize this. Again, this has been changed everywhere else already. And surface. That might be the only places. Let's check load media, texture, texture, texture. I think that's good. So there is one other thing, and this is not a spelling error. This is something a little bit more major. I forgot completely when we initialized the SDL image module, we didn't quit the SDL image module. Now, this still works, but I think it's good practice too. We've turned it on, we've started it up, and then we shut it down. So right before the SDL quit, I'm going to do the image. Okay, and that should have been there. And this has already been fixed, like I said, in the, if you pull the repository, this is already fixed for the video 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've also changed to capital V's on all of them. So that should be all of that real quick. It's all saved. Let's just make sure it still compiles. Let's do a make, rebuild, run. Okay. So this video, we're going to be doing the flakes. We're going to need a brand new module, and we're going to just call it flakes. So we're going to need a flakes at a C and a flakes H. So I'm going to make 2 new files. Flakes.c and flakes.h. And inside we're going to put our include guards. Fine, flakes.h. And we'll put the end if. Okay. And right away we are pulling in, I don't want to do that. right away we're pulling in the main.h. Okay, main.h. Now let's talk about what we're going to be doing here in Flakes. So in Flakes, is that we're going to be using, we could do this multiple different ways. We could make an array, but since we would need to specify the size of the array, or we would need to, we either need to make the array where we already have a size of it, or we need to put an array on the heap. So for this, because I don't know exactly what the size of the array, you might want to change the amount of flakes you have and everything else. I am going to use a linked list instead. So I'm going to have a flake, kind of a node, a flake node, and it's going to have a pointer to the next node. So if the pointer to the next node is null, then you're at the last flake. And so if I have 10 of them, the very first one is going to point to the second one, and the second one's going to point to the third, and I can do a while loop and keep a local pointer to whatever node I'm in, and at the bottom of the while loop, I can set the pointer to the next to the next one. And in game, I will hold a pointer to the first node. So anytime I want to add to it, I will take whatever is in the game as the first node, as the kind of the pointer to the whole list, and I will make that the next and set the new guy as the first. So we're going to see this in practice, but it's just a simple dynamic linked list is what I'm going to do. So our header file is just going to be a single flake. It's not going to be, or the struct that we put in our header file, it's going to be a single flake, or a single node for a single flake. So let's start do that. So I'm just going to call it flake. So you're going to see flakes and flake. So the module is flakes because I'm going to be dealing with the linked list, but this struct is going to be a single flake. So we got a flake here. Make sure I put my semicolon. Okay. And we want right away a pointer to the next flake. So we say struct flake, and we'll call it next. We also need the render, so we can do the exact same thing that the player's doing. We need a render, we need an image, we need a rect, and we'll have a Boolean if it's white or not. We'll add that in later. So right now we're just going to get the render, we're going to get the image and the rect. So SDL render, SDL texture, and let's see, SDL rect. Okay, I think that's good enough for this one. And we're going to need some prototypes down here. So we're going to have, we'll have a new flake, but then for things like freeing, we're going to be freeing flakes. So if it's a thing that works on a single flake, it's just going to be flake. And if it's working on the dynamic list of flakes, it's going to be not, it's going to be the singular version. For flake, it's just the standard way that we did where we created everything else. So it's going to be a bool, flake new, and it's a struct flake, and we have the double pointer to flake. We need the render. SDL texture. So we have the structure to the flake, we have the render, we have the texture. We're going to call that image. Those are the things that we're passing in. That'll be good for right now. So we want to be able to free the flakes. This will be all the flakes. We want to be able to draw the flakes, and we want to be able to update the flakes. So the freeing is going to be a void. We'll call this flakes. free, and we are just bringing in the pointer to the pointer the same. There we go. And we need the update is the same. The update's going to be void, and the draw is going to be void. We'll just do the star F. Sorry, the update is Flakes, and so is the free. So since this is Flakes, I'm going to call this, yeah, I can still call it F, it's fine. Void Flakes, and this will be the draw. Okay, so those will be the beginning functions. We'll add to this later, and we'll be adding to the player as well, but just to get things rolling, this will be good enough for now. So we can make a new flake, we can free our flakes, however many we have. We can update our flakes, and we can draw our flakes. So I'm going to grab these, make sure we save this file. Now we need to go into flakes. We need to include our flake. Okay, and now we can start putting these here. And I'm just going to put returns on these just so it lets them be here before I modify them. Okay, so because we'll deal with those in a minute. So for this one, we are going to generate the flake the same way, but we also need to think about that it's a linked list. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we have been doing before. We're going to do the struct flake, and we're going to dereference our flake. Calloc, we got one of them. We're doing size of struct flake. Then we need to check. So I'm not going to call it flake here. I'm going to call it new flake because we have to deal with we're generating a new flake that's going to go into our flakes list. So we'll see if that new flake exists. And printf. Error in calloc of new flake. I do not think we need. We're not getting an SDL error on this one, so it should be like that. And we'll return true. Okay, so that's getting our new flake. We kind of need to pause here for a second because we have to deal with the fact that we need the images, and they are being held in our game struct. Because we need to pass in images, then we need to query the image. I guess we could keep going, but we do need to go back and make that happen. So we could say if we're going to query a texture just like we did in the player. So we're going to use SDL query texture. And the first thing we need is our image. We're passing this image in from here, but we could use this image Yeah, we could just query that image. It's going to be the same. And we're going to put null and null. Let's check how we did it on the player real quick so we can have consistency. So I use the player image here. It doesn't matter because we're passing it in. We're passing the image in right here. So I'll just do the same thing for consistency with the flake. So we're not doing different things in different places. So here we're going to say we haven't made our, oh, I see why I'm doing it, because I haven't done the kind of the F for flake like I would do in the player. So it's okay. We're going to keep going with that. And we need our new flake rect. New flake rect .w and our new flake, sorry, rect.h. So I guess we could put new flake here. But that means we haven't linked it up yet. So above here, we would need to make sure our image is now in the new flake. So we could say new flake renderer equals renderer new flake image equals image. I don't know why I'm subtracting this. So we have new flake renderer equals render, new flake image equals image. Don't need anything, no. And then now we're checking this down here to see if it failed. And we can just grab the error from, again, from our player C right here. Let's see here. Error querying texture will work just fine. We're getting the SDL error out of it. And then we need to turn true. Okay, so we are populating our rect. We've linked up render image, populated our rect. Now we need to deal with the fact that this is a linked list. So we've passed in flakes up here, but we haven't used it yet because we actually made it new flake. So all this stuff is new flake, new flake, new flake, new flake. So we need to know, is flakes null or is it something? Okay, because what we need to do is this new flake is going to be our new head, the new first item in the list. So it's going to be the game flakes pointer is going to be pointing at this new flake. So if the game's flakes pointer is already pointing at another flake, we need to move that. We need to have a reference to that as our next. So I'm going to check. Because if it's already null, so I could do it if flakes exist, I move it to the next. I set new flakes next to that. And if flakes null, I set new flakes next to null. But if it's already null, I'm doing that. So I could just do, I could say new flake next. So new flake next is a pointer to a, let's go over here real quick. Next is just a flake struct, right? So new flake, our flake that we just created, next is a pointer to another flake. So we could set that to the dereference of the pointer to flakes up here, which will give us our pointer that's in the game struct. So new flakes next equals that. So if that is something, we are saying, hey, the next one from this flake will be that old head. Or if it's null, the next one from this flake is still null. And then after that, we need to set this new flake as the actual head. And then we need to return. So I hope that makes sense. So basically, what is in the game is pointing at the head, and what we create here is our new head. So if we already have a head, we need that to be the next from this one, and then we make this one the new head. If there was no head, if it was null, this is still going to be null. Or sorry, up here will still be null, and this will still be set as the new head. So that's how we are building up. So every time we invoke this new flake, if we have nothing, it's going to be the head, and next will be null. If we already have something, that's the new one we create is going to be the new head, and next is going to be whatever the old head was, and it's going to continue like that. So that is going to be our linked list. Okay. So now, how do we deal with these ones that are dealing with flakes, that are dealing with flakes that we need to free, flakes we need to update, flakes we need to draw? Well, the draw one is really straightforward. Let's just start with that one. So we'll just get rid of this return. We don't really need it. So all we need to do is we're already sending in the pointer to the head of the flakes, right? That's what we're going to send into this function, is whatever the game flakes is going to be sent into here. So let's just do this. While f, well, that is something, not null, right? And then we can just say SDL render copy. And we need the render. So we're going to have an f render. We need our image. F image. Now our source rectangle is null. We're using the whole image. And our destination rectangle is going to be our rect. So we need the address of our rect. Okay, so that is going to draw the next one. So then it's going to draw the first one. It's going to draw the head, because F was sent in as the head. If f is actually something, the head was actually there. There's at least one flake. It's going to get drawn, and now the next thing we're going to do is set f to the next. So f equals next. Okay. So if there's only one flake in this, well, if there's no flakes, if this comes in as null, this is never going to get triggered. If there is a flake, this comes in, it's a flake, it draws the flake, but there's only one flake, so next is null. We're setting the flake now to null, and then it comes back up in the while and it says, oh, it's null, so that's done. And we don't need to return out of this because it's void. So we are good. So it looks exactly like this, just this simple suite, and it's going to go through all the flakes and draw them. So for updates, we just want the flakes to fall. So again, I'm just going to put a magic number in right now, which is we put 5 in. These are going to change, but just to see something happen, well, we could just see the flake. Let's just do that. Let's do that where we just see the flake real quick. We actually need to go to game. We need to load the image. Then we need to create this flake and all that stuff. Don't know what I did here. I think I accidentally put in a tab there. Okay, so in game H, we need a new, I'm going to separate these out. I'm going to put, I want these grouped together, and I want the kind of the things just so I can visually see it. But we need a new image. So we'll do SDL, yeah, SDL texture. And we need two images actually. We need the yellow flake and the white flake. So we could say yellow image, SDL texture. We could say white. And I spelled yellow wrong. That's why I didn't light up. There we go. So we can have a yellow image. We can have a white image. We also need the struct for the flake. And we're going to call it Flakes. It's going to be the head of the flakes list. Okay, so we got struct flake flakes. We have our two images. So now in game, or sorry, in load, yeah, so we'll load it and then we need to come back and destroy it. So in load media, we have the player image and we need just another one of these for the, I'll show you real quick. The images are here and it is white PNG and yellow PNG, and these are the two flakes. And we've actually already loaded the yellow PNG as before, but we didn't save it. We just loaded it as a surface, but you saw what it looked like, and that was the that was for the icon. So I'm just going to put two of these in real quick. So the first one is white, I guess. White image. There's a white PNG. Checking the white. That's strange. White became black. Okay. Oh, because it's highlighted. Okay. Error loading texture. This is still good. Good. Okay. Now we change this to yellow. Okay. We've loaded the resources. Now we need to destroy the resources, and that will be in game. We also need to destroy the whole flake list. So that is in game. Let's continue destroying them backwards. So SDL destroy texture. We'll go with this G. It doesn't really matter, I guess. White, yellow. Image. And we'll nullify it. Image equals null SDL destroy texture yellow image, and this is the okay. So now we need to think about getting rid of the flakes. So that we will just call, we will let it destroy itself again. So we're going to do the flakes free, and we need to send in the address. Kind of see how this all kind of links up and is following the same kind of rules. And it is flakes. Okay, so we let flakes destroy itself, but flakes is only handling its own memory. It's not handling the image memory. It's not handling the render memory. So flakes will be destroying itself, but the image is in the game. And we could have done it the other way, but this is just the way I decided to do it for this game. So we're destroying our yellow image, we're nullifying our white image, we're nullifying it, we're destroying yellow, we're nullifying it. We are telling Flakes to clean itself up. Let's let Flakes clean itself up real quick before we create the actual Flakes. So we have Flakes free right here. So for this one, I am going to create that local pointer. Since we are passing in a pointer to a pointer, I need just the local pointer, not the pointer to pointer to work with initially. So why we're freeing each individual flake. So right here, free flakes. I'm going to create that flake and just do an F there equals the dereference flakes. Maybe I should have told it to be flakes up here. It doesn't matter. It can just be flake. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. We'll do the while f, and we'll take the meticulous route of nullifying each thing, even though it's a little overkill, but we'll just do it just for good practice. So we're going to nullify the image. We'll nullify the render. So we kind of need to make a next to hold on to it real quick. So we'll just do that here. We'll just call it struct flake next. And this will be equal to flake next. So that we just need to hold on to this, because if we start zeroing out everything and zero out next and everything else and freeing itself, then we won't have a way to get to the next flake. So that's kind of just a placeholder there, so we can keep working. And we can nullify next. I think that's all the pointers we have in flakes. Yeah, that looks like all of our flakes pointers. So, okay. So now we need to free this. So we're going to free F. Now we're going to set F to the next flake that we were holding on to up here. So F equals next. And then if this is null, this will collapse, stop. But if it's not, it'll go to the next one and the next one, next one's freeing through the whole line. And then when we get done, we want to actually set the head for that's still being held in game. We want to nullify that one. So it was sent in as, so I really think this needs to be sent in as flakes. And this will be flakes. And this will be flakes. We'll have to change that in the prototype. Equals null. Okay. So basically we are getting a local F pointer to a flake, and we are holding on to the next one real quick. We're just creating another local variable to hold next, and then we're nullifying everything. We're freeing that flake, and then we are setting F to next that we were holding up here, so it can continue through the while loop. And then when we get all done with all that and all the flakes are all free, we still have the pointer that is being held in the game struct. And so we were telling that pointer in the game struct to be set to null. So now game won't try to do anything again with with these. So I changed flakes here, so I want to change that in the header file as well. Flakes. So it makes more sense when I'm looking at it. Okay, so let's see here. So we're not updating anything, but we are returning, so it shouldn't complain about it. We are freeing, we are drawing, we are making a flake. We're not setting a location at the flake right now, so it's going to be in the top left-hand corner. Okay, that's fine. Now let's go in and let's create a flake. So we're going to do this in game. Okay, call to undeclared. Up here, we need to, we can actually do this in the header file or here. It doesn't need to be in the header file, I don't think. Game.h doesn't need this. I'm going to check. Oh, yes, it does, because it's right here. Struct flake. So we need this here. So flake.h, flakes is what I called it. Flakes.h is there. And now in game, well, there it is, game. Now it should stop complaining. Hopefully, yeah, looks like it's good there. Okay, so we need to make this at least a flake to look at, right? So I'm just going to make a single flake first, and then we'll deal with making more than one flake. And I'm just going to make a single yellow flake. So we'll say flake new, and we need to pass in the head that we need to be, the flakes. This is going to be G flakes. So we pass in the head. We need to pass in the render. We need to pass in an image, and we want a yellow flake, so we're going to pass in the fact that it is yellow. All right, we're just going to pass in a yellow image. Later on, we'll have a Boolean that internally that holds on to what color it is for logical purposes, but right now we're not doing any of that. So the image we're going to pass in is a yellow image. And is that it for now? I think that's it for now because we're not passing in the Boolean. So that should just make us a single flake. Okay, so we have a single flake made. Now we go down to our game loop and we want the flakes to be drawn. So let's have the flakes, we have the background drawn first, so that's all the way in the back. On top of that is a player, and let's do the flake on top of that. So we go flake, draw, and it'll be G flakes. And this is flakes draw. Okay, so that's drawing our flakes, and we need to update. So we can update the player first, and then we'll update the flakes. Flakes update. That should work for the flakes, even though we're not actually updating anything. But if we don't do this, it's going to complain that we have an unused, that we're not using it, and we'll get a compiling error. So I just have a return on there. So hopefully that will be good enough to just let it compile. We are creating flake, we are updating flake, we are drawing a flake, and we are destroying the flake. That should be all of our flake stuff. Okay, let's see what happens. Hopefully we're going to get a yellow flake in the top left-hand corner. I don't need to rebuild, I think. Just do that. Okay. We got an unused, and it is the update. Okay, so since that is complaining, let's just um, we'll just comment all of the updates out right now. We don't need to be in here. So update here, we'll just comment this out. And update here, we'll just comment this out. Okay. So, okay, perfect. So right there in the top left-hand corner, we have our flake. Okay. So I think before we make more than one flake, we should move the flake, because if we make a whole bunch of flakes, they'll all just be sitting on top of each other right now. So how about we move the flake? Yeah, let's update the flake first. Right now we are just going to do what we did with the movement of the player. We're just going to use a magic number on the updating. This will be changed later. So in Flakes and Update, let's get into here. We're going to do the exact same thing like the while loop, while F. And we can say, we can tell it just to update its Y positively because it's going down the screen. So F rect dot Y plus equals 5. That should just get it to go down the screen. Okay, let's just do that first. And we need to turn it back on over here and in game. Right here. That doesn't seem right. Let's try to force close it. Okay, let's try that again. I must have done something really silly there. So get this a little bigger. Okay, let's see what kind of mistake that we made with that update. Oh, I know what we did. So what we did is we used the while loop on the flake, but we never went to the next flake. So we were in just an infinite loop of it never even getting out of that one flake. So that was a big mistake. So so the F equals next, we didn't do that. F equals, okay, so that should be correct, yeah? F equals F next. Okay, let's try that again, and hopefully we won't have the same problem. Okay, it's moving down the screen, and it keeps going, and it's gone. That's not very good. We need it to hit the ground and restart, but then we kind of we're going to have the problem with making multiple flakes that are all going to be drawn on top of each other. We really need these flakes in kind of random locations, in different locations. So we're going to need to talk about randomizing this. Let's see how much time I got. Yeah, I think real quick. We're gonna, since random numbers is pretty simple in C, we just need to create our random number generator. So I'm going to put it in initialize. I'm going to go into main H first, and we need to bring in time at least. I'm not sure what else we need. Random is in stdlib, I believe. So we need time. And this is, we're just using time to seed the random number generator. So we're in there, and then we go to initialize C, and at the bottom here, I want to seed random. So it's going to be srand, and it's I just want to double check this. I just don't want to do something off the top of my head. So this does need to be an unsigned. So I'm going to cast this to an unsigned so that, because, well, we'll see what it looks like real quick. We're going to see it complaining about implicit casting time, and we're putting null in here. And this is just going to give us the time that is right now, and we're going to use that to seed our random number generator. So I'm just going to do that, and then we're going to see if the compiler complains. See this? We got this conversion. Yeah, it's time t, which is a long int, to an unsigned int. Okay, and what we just need is an unsigned. So I'm just going to cast it to unsigned. So what we do here is right in front of time, I'm going to cast times returning time t, and I'm going to cast it to unsigned. Now, if you just run normal GCC, it won't complain about that, but because all of the strict rules I have in the make file, it's not, it doesn't let me do that. Okay, so now that we have kind of access to random numbers, what if we put the flake in a random x position so that we can get more flakes on the screen? So here where we initially generate our flake, so I really just want it randomly on the screen. So what I need it to do is be the x position to be anywhere from 0 to the width of the screen minus the width of the flake, so that it's always visible on the screen. So it's never going to be drawn off the screen. So right here where we make our flake, we can just put it down. I'm just going to put it before I move to the new head. So we could put f, oh sorry, not f, it's new flake. New flake rect dot x, and I want this to be equal to, we're going to do the random, we're going to do modulus of it. So let's just type it out here. So we got rand to get a random number, and we need to constrain it to that 0 to width minus the width of the image, width of the screen minus the width of the image, so that the x is still, or the whole image is still on the screen. So we're going to use the modulus, which is the percent sign, and then we're going to go with the window width minus the new flake rect width. Okay, so we're going to set this to this, so it's going to be somewhere on the screen. I don't know if I need to put the whole thing in parentheses, probably, just to be safe. Let's just put the entire operation here into parentheses. And if hopefully we should get our flake just randomly on the screen, but always on the screen. Okay, I'm just going to run it again. It's nice. Okay, so now that we have it in a random position, let's deal with the fact that it doesn't come back to the top. So we have to kind of decide where the ground is. So what I want the flake to do is I want the flake to, when it's moved down and it's like halfway into the ground, when half of the flake is still showing above the ground and half the flake is in the ground, that's when I want it to reset. And for the image of the background, it's about 514 pixels. So when we do our update here, I'm going to do a check on it. f rect y is bigger than 514, we'll just reset it to 0. And that'll put it right at the top of the screen again. So dot y is 0. Should I want to pull this out into a reset function is what I want to do. Because we can randomize. We can randomize the, yeah, I just want to see it real quick though. I just want to see it draw. So equals 0. Because it would be nice to change the x position again. Also, we want to put it kind of in a random y position, but this will be good enough just to let us draw the flake over and over again. Okay, there we go. Okay, cool, cool. So let's look at more flakes then. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna do more flakes and then we're gonna end it on that note and we'll do the rest in the next video. So in game, we are just making one flake, right? And we are actually not checking if this is failing, which is not. So what we're going to do is a couple things. This is perfect for making a flake. We want to make a bunch of flakes, so we're just going to put it in a loop. But also we want to check if this is failing. So if this has failed, we've already got an error message. So all we need to do is return true. That means that it wasn't, a new flake wasn't constructed on the heap. So I'm going to put the whole thing in a for loop. So I equals 0. We'll say I is, let's have 10 flakes. So 4i is equal to 0, while I is less than 10. That should just give us 10 yellow flakes. Yep. And you see how exciting it is that all the flakes are on the same line. We are going to fix that. Fear not. They will not be starting on the screen or anything like that. They're going to be completely random, starting above where the screen is. Let's do some white flakes. So I'm just going to copy this. And let's make this a bit smaller since they're not randomized right now. We'll do, say, 5. We'll do 5. We'll make these white. Okay. And let's make sure they're being cleaned up. Let's throw before I end this, let's just make sure that these flakes are actually cleaning themselves the way that we hope that they are. I always do that. Okay, so the flakes should be cleaning themselves. So why don't we do that each time? Let's just do a little print statement and see if they're doing it. So we have 10 flakes. We should see 10 cleans. Let's see here. We'll just put clean. And we should see that happening based on how many flakes there are. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yep. Okay. That seems to work well. I'm going to remove that. So let's just overlook what we covered real quick. We're making flakes and we're doing it in a dynamic linked list. So we're basically creating it with calloc the exact same way we did everything else. We're bringing the render and the image just like we did the player. We are querying the texture to get our rect width and height just like we did with the player, but we're calling it new flake every time. And we are just for, we're putting it in a random X position right now. We will make that better later. But then what we're doing is every new flake we make becomes the new head. Whatever the old head was becomes the next flake. So this is setting next to whatever the old head was, whether it's null or whether it's an actual flake, and then setting this flake that we just created to the new head that we passed in our pointer to a pointer of flake here. So that is being held in the game struct. In game. And these flakes, just like the player, are not managing their own resources. They're managing themselves, but not the image. I'm just keeping a local pointer to whatever image they use and the renderer in them, but that's still being handled by the game. So when they clean themselves up, they're just literally cleaning up their own calloc. Let's see here. So right now we just have our flake next. That's how our linked list works. And then we have our render, image, and rect. We have our functions of the new, the free, the update, and the draw. The new is a singular flake each time. All the rest are dealing with the linked list. So the free is going to be getting a local pointer to a flake and then holding on to whatever the next position is and then updating it to the next each time. So when it finally becomes null, it breaks out, and that's for freeing things. And then it makes sure that what game is holding on to, the game head of flakes, is also set to null. And when it's updating, we're doing the same thing. We're just bringing in a pointer to a flake, and it's just going through next, updating. Same with draw, pulling in the pointer to the flake, which is the head of the list, going through all the next, and it's just drawing them. None of these we care if they fail. We only care about this one if it fails. So that's why this is a bool. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll try to set up the next video. I have to kind of think about logically how I break it up here, but we will start. I'll do flakes again on the next one because I want these flakes to be really random on the screen and to be looking like it's snowing. So we will do another video on this one. Thank you for watching.